Veritas. SCP Files. Episode 27. The Wanderer's Path. Thank you for bringing this to me, but I don't actually think those get recorded. The research summaries and test records are usually just uploaded to the database as written logs. It's only the incident reports that get recorded, though I honestly couldn't tell you why. Besides, look, I respect your work, I really do. But even if I needed to record this, I'm not sure I'd want to.
Still upset about 650 appearing behind you?
To this day, I think about it every time I turn around.
Yeah, I don't blame you. As far as we can tell, that sort of reaction is SCP-650's only goal, to scare and alarm. And if that fails, then just to get a reaction however it can. It's flashy, but ultimately harmless. Not that I'm trying to convince you to read the testing logs. I just wanted to let you know that we are finished testing with it and that its containment procedures are in place. It's being shipped out to its permanent containment site tomorrow.
Far away, I hope?
You'll likely never see it again. A lot of SCPs are being sent away. I haven't heard about this myself, but I'm guessing that Miranda and Seth received an order from their higher-ups to clear as many SCPs from the site as quickly and as quietly as possible before the attack happens. We're shipping away many of them, even the ones we haven't fully finished updating containment procedures for.
Good. Thanks for letting me know that. Checking something off my list of things to worry about it's nice.
Mm-hmm. Thought it would be good closure for you. Oh, I also have this. Thought that might be good closure too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yes, I suppose it's high time for this. How did you know that I recorded a report about this?
Niall, of course. He's the one who found it, actually, though I really don't know where he got it from. I'm just the delivery man today.
Well, tell him I said thank you. I had been trying to push the ball of sharp out of my mind as much as possible. So much so that I almost forgot about the driving dummy entirely.
I'll pass along the thanks. Good luck with the recording.
Incident Report 1114-3. Third incident report involving SCP-1114. Object Class: Euclid. Risk Assessment Level: Low. Reported by Administrative Archival Assistant Paul Holmes. Report made September 7th, 2003. I am going to die. That's not quite the impactful statement that everyone seems to think it is, though. I mean, we're all going to die someday. It's an inevitability, just like how the world will keep spinning regardless of whether or not we keep individually living. I just meant that my own particular death is a bit closer than most people's at this exact moment. It's absurd how the smallest accidents tend to cascade into an avalanche of misery here in the Foundation. All it takes is one wrong blink, one wrong breath, one wrong look. The people who survive here the longest are not the people with the most intellect or bravery, but those who are best able to endear themselves to the people or the entities in control of their fates. I wonder if hearing that surprises anyone who might be reading this. I imagine it may. So let me reiterate. We are not in control of our own fates here at the Foundation. Working here goes beyond simply being employed and handing over our work schedules to supervisors who care more about a bottom line or customer service than the well-being of their employees. No. We are playing around with life and death forces that we do not understand, that we cannot fully comprehend, and that can affect everything from how we move around our days to who we are fundamentally as people. I always thought of Site 12 as the perfect example of that concept. Despite the gargantuan expanse of its subterranean and subaqueous floors, the site monitors just 6 anomalies. The rest of it is set up as an archival hub, specializing in historical, spectral, mythological, and thaumaturgical research. There is a vast and ever-expanding library with a multitude of floors, housing information that cannot be accessed from anywhere else in the world. To the majority of the Foundation, it is a rather impressive library, to be sure. But still, the written word is considered exceedingly uninteresting when compared to some of the more ostentatious and destructive anomalies stored in other sites. What most people don't know, however, is that my site's library is just a minuscule fraction of the aptly named Wanderer's Library. And it is sentient. The Wanderer's Library is an extra-dimensional space that exists beyond our reality, and it is a centralized area of storage of all knowledge, from every universe and every dimension. We know of it through various texts and references that have been pushed through the interdimensional chaos to find our reality. But we can never actually visit the library in its entirety. Luckily for us, one of the dimensional extrusion points is located in my site, and the fragment it manifests for us exists just enough in our reality that we've been able to use it. And the information we've discovered, the beautiful, glorious knowledge it has given us about the anomalies that so shape our truths. But again, it is sentient. We discovered this shortly after a particularly irresponsible researcher brought a candle into the library as a light source. What a fool. The library was, well, of course, it didn't like the idea of open flames around its precious ancient paper. It reacted instantly, folding in on itself, twisting into a series of maze-like corridors that wound through bookshelves that deformed, stretching up to the ceiling, blocking out all light and sealing him in forever. So, you don't upset the library. Treat it with respect, and it will treat you with respect. It's even been known to expand itself in order to provide additional information for the researchers it really favors. I thought that perhaps it might favor me too. You see, I love libraries. Even as a small boy, I would spend hours in my local bookstores and library, avidly reading anything I could get my hands on. I was always a bookworm, always so eager to read that next tale, discover that next tantalizing piece of information that would expand my view of the world. When I got the opportunity to be here, enter this fragment of the Wanderer's library, I was so excited at all the prospects, all the secrets that I might be privy to. My job was perfect. During my working hours, I would meticulously, carefully, and respectfully look through row after row of books and catalog my findings, marveling as the shelves endlessly stretched, and the library grew and expanded itself further and further every day. And in my hours off, I would go back over those tomes I found the most promising, and pore through them, absorbing all the information I was able, staying up through the long hours of the night, tired and weary, but unable to close the books with all their wondrous knowledge. I thought it appreciated that it appreciated how invested I was in learning the secrets it had to provide. I always felt so at home there, and it always felt like it welcomed me. I never thought... Such an innocent mistake. I stole one of its books. I didn't think about it. I just brought it out of the library. It was a tome on the origins of thaumaturgy, written by the very first practitioners who broke through the veil and discovered powers beyond their dreams. It was just so enticing. I was so spellbound and lost in the thick, comforting leather binding and the deep secrets that I felt so sure no one else had ever discovered. I didn't realize that, almost in a trance, I'd taken it back to study in the comfort of my own quarters. The truth of what I'd done did not even cross my mind. I thought the library would understand, that it would appreciate my search for the truth of my reality. But, of course, the library did not see far beyond the fact that I had, quite simply, stolen one of its most precious tomes. It took me days to realize the most devastating fact of all, that it must have trusted me intensely and deeply to show me this chronicle in the first place. To it, my act was blatant theft, a violation of the boundless trust it had placed in me. The next day, the moment I stepped through the entryway and into that first row of shelves, the air suddenly thickened with the sensation of anger and betrayal. I tried to apologize. I tried to explain myself. But how does the sentience of a man compare to the sentience of the most amazing library in all of existence? I don't think it understood my words, my pleas for understanding, for sympathy. I don't think it believed that I was sincere. Even as I turned around to leave, intent on locating and returning the stolen book as quickly as I was able, I found the way behind me was blocked with a new bookshelf. It had not been there moments before, and now stretched, dark and ominous, into the sky. I thought about that last researcher, lost indefinitely among the twisting corridors of the extra-dimensional library, and I was not afraid. In that moment, seeing the way my path had been blocked, feeling the resentment that mingled with the scent of ink, leather, and ancient paper, I felt completely at peace. If I were to die, I would be okay with disappearing away, quietly, into the gentle repose of a bygone repository of such beautiful, comprehensive knowledge. As though sensing that its intimidation and threats had been simply peacefully accepted, the library changed tactics. I could feel the floor beneath my feet shift as the wood began to slope downwards. The feeling of calm evaporated as my feet started to slip on the polished floorboards, and I grabbed onto the nearest shelf to steady myself. But of course, it was all the library. The floor, the shelves, the very air itself, all of it was sentient, and all of it was upset. The boards of the shelf deformed, buckling upwards to shoot jagged splinters into my hand. I screamed and instinctively let go, losing my balance instantly on the sharply sloping wood and falling backwards. Down and down I fell, into an impossible M.C. Escher tunnel lined with misshapen and twisting shelves. The library melted around me as I fell through a myriad of dimensions, swirling and warping in a dazzling pattern of vibrant colors, weaving a harmonious painting of unreality. It was so incredibly beautiful. A canvas of insight and cognizance that I was certain nobody else had ever gleaned before me. I would have gladly stayed there, falling through dimension after dimension, just gleaming glimpses into those unexplored interdimensional spaces. But the library was not about to reward me in that way. I landed hard onto the floor of SCP-1114's room. I felt my bones shatter at my impact, my feet crumpling beneath me in a joint-popping splay as I accordioned into the ground. The pain was so sharp, so sudden, that for a moment it erased all memory of that dazzling display I had just witnessed, pulling me so concretely into my body that I started to cry. I breathed agony, and I lay there, feeling every moment, eyes closed so I would not have to see the sharp jut of bones that undoubtedly pierced through every part of my shattered legs. It took me an eternity to realize that I could still move. And when the pain had, at last, begun to subside into a deep, thunderous ache, I opened my eyes and viewed my unharmed frame. I spent 10 minutes carefully looking myself over, and though my right hand was still filled with long, sharp splinters of fragmented wood, the rest of me was completely intact. I'm sure you could guess why. SCP-1114 had imprinted upon me. There before me stood the driving dummy, and it wore my face. A quiet death within an endless library loop was not punishment enough for me and my transgressions. Instead, the library had manifested itself next to 1114's containment room, injuring me with splinters in order to force the SCP to imprint upon me and end my life. Isn't the library brilliant? Just think about how much knowledge it had to use to exact this revenge. It had to know SCP-1114's location in our particular reality and dimension. It had to know that the mannequin imprints only when a person is injured nearby. It had to know that the unimprinting process means the death of the subject. It had to know all of that and then have the planning to piece it all together and the malice to carry it all out. It has all the knowledge of this dimension and the sentience to pick out specific pieces of that knowledge in order to use them in just such a way so as to exact a devastating plan of revenge. It's brilliant. I wish that I hadn't been the subject of that brilliance. Not that the thought of death scares me. Like I said, it'll happen to all of us one day. But the Foundation has decided that I'll make for an excellent subject for several additional tests on the driving dummy before I am to be terminated. And I've read enough to know that the tests will be unpleasant. The mannequin will, of course, deflect and intercept any and all injuries. But the pain, that will be mine to bear. Not that I can imagine pain greater than the shattering of both my legs. But, well, I hear some of the Foundation's researchers can be quite imaginative in their approaches to testing. I can only devise a singular way out of it. Perhaps the library will accept me back. I did return the book, of course, the moment I could walk again without stabs of searing pain affecting my gait. I brought it back and placed it, gently and gingerly, back into its empty slot. And even though I could still feel that aura of anger, it had lessened. Perhaps it realized the gravity of what it had done to me. Perhaps it appreciated that I was still brave enough to face it again and correct my mistake. Perhaps it regretted. I don't know. Perhaps I am only projecting. But if my choices are to either face the tests the Foundation has in store for me, or throw myself onto the mercy of the Wanderer's Library, I know which option appeals to me more. Perhaps this time it will grant me the peaceful oblivion that I seek. Despite Paul's obvious value as a tester, and the Foundation's desire to get as much use out of him as possible before his inevitable demise, the Ethics Committee did acknowledge that he was not a D-class, had committed no former crimes, and had served the Foundation loyally for many years. As a result, he was given another chance to make a final appeal to the Wanderer's Library before any testing could begin. On September 15th, 2003, Paul Holmes walked into the Wanderer's Library and disappeared from Site 12. We are unsure of what has become of him, only that it seems the library ultimately forgave him, or perhaps felt that it had not punished him enough. 2 weeks following Paul's disappearance, SCP-1114 had been noted to have returned to its inactive state, despite Protocol Wanderlust, the unimprinting process, never having been conducted. There are multiple theories floating around the database, suggested by various researchers familiar with the library. Some suggest it clearly killed him, given SCP-1114's reversion to a dormant state. Some suggest that the library granted Paul a way to interrupt the link to the mannequin, and that he has now become a sort of dimensional wanderer himself, fusing into one with the will of the library. But whatever the reality, the only thing we truly know is that Paul Holmes has never been seen again since, and he has been officially listed as missing in action.
Vault Veritas SCP Files is a podcast inspired by the SCP Foundation. The Wanderer's Path is based on SCP-1114 by Crane, from the SCP Wiki located at scpwiki.com/scp-1114. It is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Sharealike 3.0 unported license. This episode featured Justin Gellner as Scott Anderson and Cody W. as Meriwether Parker. It was written and edited by Leola Angel. We welcome comments. Please rate and review us. Email us at vaultveritas@gmail.com. Join our Discord channel using the link in the episode description. Tweet us at Vault Veritas. Or for additional content, visit our Patreon. Thanks for listening.